YouTubers? I am Jason Wersma. This is the best damn fantasy football channel on YouTube. This is Tankers Fantasy Football, and today we are going to break down all the good and bad matchups going into week 4 so you can decide these very important start/sit decisions in your leagues this week. So we're going to break it down. We're going to start it with running backs. Lead off with Matt Breida, who I know he lost Jimmy G, but CJ Beathard targets running backs almost more than any quarterback when he is on the field. We're talking about Matt Breida, who is going against the Chargers, who are the 25th in yards given up to running backs, 25th in scrimmage yards given up to running backs. They're giving up 155 scrimmage yards to running backs per week. So all in on Matt Breida. Another guy who you're looking to have a very good week this week is MARSHAWN LYNCH, playing in Oakland versus the Browns. The Browns defense has been kind of tough this year, but they are not that tough versus the run. They're giving up the second most points to running backs, giving up over 20 PPR points to running backs this year. They've got eaten alive by Alvin Kamara, James Conner, and last week they even gave up 2 touchdowns to the likes of Isaiah Crowell. So all in on the MARSHAWN LYNCH this week. Another guy, since the Rex Burkhead news, he's headed to the IR for the Patriots. I think Sony Michel is going to be getting a lot of these early down looks. He's going to be getting probably the majority of the goal line looks. We're probably looking at a good 15 touches a game moving forward for Sony Michel. I know he kind of looked like he was running in tar out there on Sunday Night Football, but he's going against Miami. Miami's giving up the 6th most points to running backs, which is just under 6 PPR points a game to running backs. So I expect Sony Michel to somehow find his ass into the end zone and maybe be able to produce a decent flex play numbers for you this week. So all in on the Sony Michel. Jordan Howard going against the Buccaneers. We've got the 3rd most touchdowns and the 3rd most points. Just under 20 points a game to running backs so far are the Buccaneers. They're going to have just under 20 points a game to running backs. So all in on Jordan Howard. I know he's kind of in that back end RB2 for you thus far this season. I'm thinking he can move his ass into that top end RB2, maybe back end RB1 conversation for this week in week 4. Another guy we're looking to start is Lamar Miller. Colts are 27th in scrimmage yards giving up to running backs this year, giving up 166 yards, 166 scrimmage yards to running backs thus far. So all in on the Lamar Miller. Chris Carson. Cardinals are giving up the 2nd most yards and the most touchdowns to running backs. No, 2nd most yards and the 2nd most touchdowns to running backs thus far. That equals the most fantasy points to running backs. Chris Carson, all in. Cardinals are giving up almost 190 scrimmage yards to running backs. They're giving up 2 rushing touchdowns all week out there. So all in on Chris Carson, who went out there and had 32 carries to Rashard Penny's 3. So I think moving forward, and then the Seahawks did get the win. So I think moving forward, we are going to see a lot of Chris Carson in the next 2-3 weeks and maybe into the beyond, baby. But I think this is Chris Carson's backfield now for sure. Another start right now. If Joe Mixon does sit this game, I think we can wheels up out there. Another sexy deluxe Gio Bernard matchup playing down in Atlanta versus the Falcons. Are giving up the 6th most yards of the running backs. That defense is the walking wounded. They've lost several key starters in the middle of that defense. So I think all in on the Giovanni Bernard start this week. All right, we're going to get into some sits for the running back position. I think Alex Collins is a sit. I know the Pittsburgh Steelers defense has been kind of giving it up out there, but they're giving up the 9th fewest points to running backs. And I just think game script is just going to force the Ravens' hands here. I think the Steelers are going to put up points. I think the Ravens are going to be forced to throw the ball, thus mean maybe more Buck Allen and maybe not so many second half rushing attempts for Alex Collins. So I think Alex Collins is a kind of a guy I'd be looking to shade away from this weekend. Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis. Philly's defense has been tough as nails. 2 running backs are giving the fewest scrimmage yards, like 77 scrimmage yards per week to running backs. So that is not very sexy. They're giving up the 3rd fewest touchdowns and giving up the fewest points to running backs thus far. And it's like under 8 points a game to running backs. I know the last couple weeks they've been padded out there. They've only had to go against the likes of Marlon Mack and Jordan Wilkins and Peyton Barber in week 2. So maybe these numbers are a little padded out there. But Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis haven't really done dick all. Dion Lewis did it for you week 1, but hasn't really gotten as sexy for you since then. So if you got any other options, I'd be looking to shade away from both of these Tennessee Titan running backs. Another guy I'm looking to sit, we got Isaiah Crowell. Had those 2 touchdowns last week versus the Browns, with the Jags giving the 3rd fewest touchdowns to running backs thus far. And I mean, that Crow's just the type of guy that kind of relies on those touchdowns, so I'd be looking for other options instead of him. Clement and Ajayi, you know, I'm kind of, we all thought all in Clement last week. He did go out there and touch the ball 19 times, so that's a little encouraging if Ajayi does sit. If Ajayi does sit, I still think Clement is a solid RB3 flex play out there, but I don't know. I might have to temper our expectations a little bit because the Titans are giving up the fewest rush touchdowns so far and the 3rd fewest fantasy points. And, you know, I think if Ajayi sits, I think Clement will get enough volume to get into that flex play situation. But if Ajayi plays, I might be leaning towards sitting both these guys. And when you're looking to start Ajayi, you're hoping for a touchdown because I don't think he's looking to do much besides maybe fall into the end zone once for you. And I think one more start. I think I missed this start out there. And we got Lindsey and Royce Freeman kind of leaning more toward the Lindsey start this week. Forgot to put these guys up in the start section. But we got Kansas City's giving up the most scrimmage yards to running back a game at 204 scrimmage yards to running backs. So it's all in. I think the only reason I'm more leaning toward Lindsey instead of Freeman is I think the game script is going to be more pass heavy because the Chiefs are going to be clanging and banging, slanging all over them, scoring the points out there on Monday Night Football. So I think it's going to be more pass heavy game scripts, so that would lean more toward the Philip Lindsay start. All right, back to the sits. I think even if Dalvin Cook doesn't play Thursday night, I think Latavius Murray is still a sit. Unless you are absolutely desperate for a flex pay out there, I think we should still shy away from Latavius Murray. Another guy you should just, I mean, maybe even just cuttable. Peyton Barber. Guy's just been so fucking bad. I mean, the Bears are giving the 3rd fewest points to running backs as well, so no reason whatsoever to even think about putting Peyton Barber in your lineup. All right, we're going to get into some starts at wide receiver here, people. Lead off with Big Mike Williams. Keenan Allen even missed practice day, came up a little bit gimpy late in that game on Sunday. So if Keenan Allen somehow doesn't play, I mean, shoot, Mike Williams ranking for week 4 to the moon, baby. But as it is now, I think he's still a solid start, even if Keenan Allen does suit up. So we're looking at San Francisco, we're bottom 3rd in all categories versus wide receivers. I think coming out party was last week for Big Mike Williams. I think moving forward, he's still going to command 7 to 8 targets a game, which could be very sexy flex play, bottom end, wide receiver 2 numbers moving forward. All right, we got Nelson Aguilar kind of let you down in that Carson Wentz debut. Alshon Jeffrey may be coming back. I don't think Alshon Jeffrey is going to play enough snaps to really take that much away from Aguilar. I mean, he could have a very nice rebound game versus the Titans. The Titans D is stiff against the run, which we just talked about, but they're 26th in yards given up to opposing wide receivers. So I think all in, back in that ass, wide receiver 3 flex play Nelson Aguilar this week. All right, Tyler Boyd, just from the guy who's been just getting it absolutely sexy for you in weeks 2 and 3. I don't know if these 20-point situation is going to continue, but I mean, if it's gonna probably be against the Falcons, who, like I said, their defense is just beating to shreds out there. They're just IR deluxe. Even if AJ Green does play, I think Tyler Boyd is still going to be very, very serviceable for you this week in week 4. Kenny Stills, you know, he did good week 1, got in the end zone twice. Shitter week 2 with the 3 points. Back in that ass last week in the end zone. I think he can find his ass in the end zone again this week because the New England Patriots are giving up 2 touchdowns a game to opposing wide receivers, which is 5th most in the league. So all in, I think Kenny Stills in your flex, solid move this week in week 4. I think he can get his ass back into that flex play, back in wide receiver 2 conversation. All right, we got some more. We got Michael Crabtree and Downtown John Brown. Downtown John Brown left practice mysteriously on Wednesday. We're going to have to wait and see about that before we come to any conclusions on the start downtown John Brown. I mean, if he's fine, all in on the start downtown John Brown. But, I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers give him the second most yards, 2 wide receivers, giving up 216 yards a game to opposing wide receivers. So, all in on the Michael Crabtree and John Brown if he suits it up. All right, A-Rob versus the Buccaneers, giving up the third most points to wide receivers. Trubisky fucking blows. But I think A-Rob will get enough volume in this game, possibly find his ass in the end zone for the first time in a Bears uni in this game. So all in, Sexy Deluxe, Allen Robinson this week. All right, get a couple of deeper guys in there to start. Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram is going to be out this game. And the Saints are giving up the most yards and touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. They're giving up 3 wide receiver touchdowns a game and 281 yards to opposing wide receivers. Eli has been shitting it as well. But I think this is just a great flex play with a very high ceiling option this week for a guy like Sterling Shepard. So all in on the Sterling Shepard. Going to get more targets with Evan Ingram out, and the Saints just been coughing it up. All right. Antonio Callaway, he did get some targets last week. Oakland's giving him the third most yards to the wide receivers. He's a big play guy. I think he can get one over the top this week versus the Raiders and get it sexy for you. So if you are on the hurt locker and you need a little breather, a little breath of fresh air to help breathe some life back into your season, I think Antonio Callaway might be able to get it sexy for you out there in week 4. All right, some wide receiver sits. We got Marvin Jones. I'm not sitting Kenny Golladay or Golden Tate, but I am looking to sit Marvin Jones. I mean, the Dallas D is giving up the 4th fewest yards and the 2nd fewest touchdowns to wide receivers. I think Marvin Jones is just too reliable, or is relying too heavily on that big play touchdown situation. So I think if you got any other options, I mean, I'm not saying just start some bum ass off the waiver wire over Marvin Jones in like your flex play option. If you got to start Marvin Jones, I'm not completely hating on it. I'm just thinking of all of the Detroit 3 wide receivers in Golladay, Tate, and Jones. I think Jones is the one looking to have that letdown this week. All right, sit Baldwin, even though he might come back and play this week. I know it's kind of a wait and see unless you are absolutely desperate out there. I think we should wait and see on the Baldwin and see how many snaps he's going to play, how he reacts, how that game flow is going to go, you know, if he's going to be in there for a large complement of snaps. Quincy Enunwa is another guy I'd think about sitting. You know, he's playing the Jags, and the Jags, you know, they're a shutdown defense out there. No matter, I mean, if he's in the slot, the Jags got great nickel back coverage. So I think, you know, he could still be a volume guy. He could still get his 7, 8, 9 targets. So he might be able to still get it over for you in the 10 to 12 PPR points if you need him in your flex. But I don't know. I just think the ceiling on Enunwa is just a little lower this week. Amari Cooper, I'm fucking over him. Fuck him, Cleveland. I know he's playing Cleveland. I know he's probably going to do another one of his, or pretend like he's good games again for you out there. But I'm just not a fucking believer. I'm just over it. I'm starting Tyler Lockett over him for the rest of the year moving forward in the one league that I do have him. So all in on the Amari Cooper set. Another guy I'm all in on the sit, Chris Hogan. He's had 7 fucking receptions on the season. He's looked so awful bad. If Josh Gordon suits it up, I just think there's no way you can even think about playing the likes of Chris Hogan. You know, sometimes, you know, it tells you not to start these guys. You know, the Colts, you're looking at the Colts. Colts getting the 2nd fewest yards and touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. And you're thinking, well, maybe I should bench Will Fuller. I'm saying fuck all that. Will Fuller up in that ass, man beast. Get him in your lineup. Solid play, no matter what those little red numbers on the side of your screen are saying. All right, people, let's get a couple of start tight ends. We're going to go Trey Burton versus the Bucs. Give him the most yards and points to tight ends. Banding down, actually just crushinated Chris Conte's little bitch ass. Fucking hate you, Chris Conte. Play with the Bears. Cost us several games. I can't believe he still has a starting job in the league. Fucking all in on the Trey Burton this week. Sit tight end, we got Kittle. The Chargers have given up the 3rd fewest yards and haven't given up a touchdown to tight ends yet. And, you know, the new quarterback change. So I think if you have any other options, I'd look to sit George Kittle. I know times are hard at tight end, and you might have to play him regardless, but I just don't know if I'd expect big things for the Kittle this week. All right. We have a couple starts at quarterback. Red Rifle versus the Falcons, give the 5th most points. And that defense is just shit-faced hammered and injuries, like I said before. If A.J. Green plays, all in on the Red Rifle this week. Joe Flacco versus the Steelers, give him the 4th most yards and the 2nd most touchdowns. Joe Flacco is going to be heavily involved in a shootout. Even if John Brown plays, that'll be an uptick for him. But I think if you have Cam Newton on bye, I think Joe Flacco and the Red Rifle are worth a look. Also, Case Keenum, probably more of like a daily fantasy play. Chiefs are giving up the 2nd most yards and the most points to opposing quarterbacks. So Case Keenum, probably more of a daily fantasy play. But, you know, look at yourself some Case Keenum. I go sit Bortles versus Jets, give him the 4th fewest points to quarterbacks. We saw Bortles honeymoon week 2. Now we got to sit back, reeling in, and relax on the Bortles for a little while. All right, you like the cut of my jib? You know, ask me any questions below. I will answer any sit-start questions in the comment section below. Give us a subscribe, give us a share, quit being selfish, tell your league mates about the Tankers Fantasy Football. Let's help this fucking party get off the ground, baby, out there on YouTube. You know, like, comment below. Those really help the views, out. You know, put some in those recommended videos for others to see. So all in on all those things. We are on the iTunes. Follow me on the Twitter. I will get back at you. I'm going to bring back the DraftKings first. We'll get it up early Saturday afternoon. I will see you guys then. Cheese.